legal reforms that we have to embark upon. And chief amongst them is the one I've just mentioned, the passage of Postal Reform Bill into law. And then the constitution of the board of NIPOST, so that we'll just embark on corporate governance. And critical stakeholders have also bought into this, but that's the way to go. That's the way other postal services in other jurisdictions are going. And therefore, if we must compete favorably with the private courier companies that appear to be the leaders in the business, who are run like private concerns, then we also must look into that direction. However, we need to strike a delicate balance. Postal services still remain a social service. We must ensure that in trying to commercialize or corporatize NIPOST, that universal service obligation, which is a social service, is also not in any way undermined.
Now, let's look at some of these reforms that you've highlighted, which includes transport services, insurance, e-commerce, property and development, e-government. Is this feasible before the first phase of 2017, the deadline which you highlighted?
Well, it's not for me to say whether it's feasible or not. It's a proposal. It's receiving attention at the appropriate levels of government. However, you also recall that the minister made reference to the fact that some legal reforms will have to be looked into. As I've said, the legislature will do its part regarding passage of Postal Reform Bill and some other laws that will need to be, looked into. So once that is successfully carried out, then we are set to achieve the corporatization. Timelines are there, but there are certain conditions precedent that must be met. Once those ones are met, and I believe that there's no reason for us not to be able to achieve that, because the legislature is also interested in ensuring that the potentials of NIPOST are quickly harnessed. I mean, we stand to make a lot of revenue for the Federation account based on our comparative advantage. But for instance, in the areas of real estate, we have choice properties scattered all over Nigeria. We are advantageously positioned to go into warehousing, logistics, haulage, and all of that. The area that I mentioned earlier, which is very key, is the area of e-commerce. It's an exponentially growing economy. It involves lots of money. What we quickly need to do in order to partake substantially in that area is for us to get our youths to know the services that the Nigerian Postal Service can render to them, that what NIPOST can offer them. Again, it's also our responsibility to ensure that we come out with products that will interest the youth. If you look at the demographic architecture of Nigeria, people who are under the age of 25 or 30 constitute about 60% of the population. That is huge. And because Nigeria has the highest penetration of internet in Africa, and because our youths are vibrant, they want to shop online, we must be prepared to be part of that action. We must follow the money. It's a whole lot of money, but it requires huge deployment of technology and subscription to ICT. Those are some of the things that we have in the pipelines that we are doing.
Now, this clearly will be needing a high-level legislative intervention. What's the level of collaboration between NIPOST and the National Assembly?
The good news is that because I'm from the private sector, as you also know, I'm a politician, I'm one of them, we are interfacing with the critical stakeholders in the National Assembly. And I'm very confident that because the National Assembly is also an organ of government, and we know that the party is over. What do I mean by the party is over? Over reliance on monolithic product, oil. We need to use what we have to make revenue for Nigeria, and in so doing create employment for our teeming youths who are roaming the streets looking for employment. NIPOST is set to fill in the gap because we have all the wherewithal if all our potentials are properly harnessed. It's not going to be easy because, I mean, this is an organization that's also a macrocosm of Nigeria. As you know, the years of the locals had their own deleterious effect on their country until when the president of Nigeria came with the change agenda. And the need for us to have zero tolerance for corruption. And pursuant thereto, and in order to key into the agenda of the present government, Nigerian Postal Service some 3 weeks ago launched first postage stamps, special stamps, that are meant to join forces with the federal government of Nigeria in the all-important war against corruption. What that means is that we are taking that war against corruption outside of the shores of Nigeria. We're internationalizing it because our postage stamps, as you know, travel far and wide. 192 member countries of Universal Postal Union are now aware of the war against corruption. And then we're also getting our youth, as I've said, to know what NIPOST can do for them. We have introduced letter writing competition into secondary schools in order to get our youth to go back to the art of letter writing in order to improve their grammar, their diction, and all of that. That, in a way, is also getting them to be part of the war against corruption. Clearly, it is very important for NIPOST to begin to sing the music that the youth of this country will be interested in. We need to create avenues for the youth to buy into what NIPOST is doing.
You may also join in this conversation by sending out your comment on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Coming up on Question Time, setting the record straight on NIPOST for anti-corruption special postage stamps. Find out from the Postmaster General of Nigeria, Barrister B.C. Adegbuyi.